Hello everyone and welcome to APTU. Today we're going to be taking a focused look at reserves in AdvancePro. So this is a feature that prevents overcommitment of stock by making sold units unavailable, and we're also going to be looking at when an item actually becomes reserved, when it will be removed from inventory, and how to forcibly remove a reserve from an item. So we will be taking any questions at the end. So if you do have a question during the presentation, feel free to enter it into the question tab in your GoToWebinar control panel. Also, if you'd like to learn more about AdvancePro, you can see all of our previous APTU episodes on advanceprotech.com or on our YouTube channel. So what is a reserve? AdvancePro is going to track your inventory in a few different ways. We're going to jump into AdvancePro here. So first off is your total inventory. So if we go to manage inventory, we're going to go and see that we have various stock levels. This is your total inventory on hand. This represents every unit that should be in your warehouse. Now, that doesn't deal with reserve at all. This is just a total. Now, the reserve is the amount that you've committed either to customers or to work orders or to vendor returns. And to be reserved, an item is typically on some kind of order. Now, that means that you can't sell that item again, which is where we get this available to sell stock. So that's the difference between the two. So with this item, we have 18 total on hand, but 14 of them are reserved, either for customers or as components in manufacturing. So available to sell would be 4. That's what your salespeople are going to see. And this is also the stock level that's going to trigger your reorder alert levels if you're using them. So this allows you to see that even though you physically have 18 units in stock, only 4 are available. So if you had a reorder alert level of 5, it would trigger before you've actually gone ahead and shipped out or consumed those 14 pieces. It's going to say that there's a shortage that's coming on in the future because you've committed these items already. Okay. So how does an inventory item become reserved? The first way, and I'm going to start in order that we're going to touch on a few times, we're going to go ahead and start a customer order for an item. The first way is to actually process this order. So we're going to save it, we're going to place it, and it's in this process screen. If we're filling from stock, then an item becomes reserved for that customer. So currently we have 245 in stock. After I reserve, we'll have 244 in available stock. So that available stock level, that's what shows during the sales and processing order steps. Okay. Now, the other way this can happen is when you process a work order. So if I go to manufacturing and we start a new work order, we'll be able to then reserve the parts that are in that assembly. So if I choose this particular item and set up to build a bill of materials, an assembly item, the stock levels for the parts that we're going to use, those will go on reserve as soon as I hit process order. Okay, that's the second way we can create a reserve. Now, the other way is we can actually take a return. So we're going to return something to a vendor, which means we're going to be shipping it out. So as soon as we create that return and process that return, we are going to reserve that product. So those are the main ways that we reserve product. Now, in that situation, these steps, they all prevent another member of your team from using the item you need for the work order or picking slip, so that if you have only one unit of an item in stock and it's defective, it needs to be shipped back to the vendor. When you create this vendor return, it will prevent anyone else from selling that same single unit. And in fact, AdvancePro will automatically add any future sale on that item to a new vendor order so you can get what you need. It'll help you manage your back orders effectively. If you'd like more information on that, do take a look at our back order functionality. Take a look at our back order video. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. We're going to put in an RMA number. So that's going to go ahead and reserve this item as well. Nope, we'll actually return some of the product. There we go. And we'll process that. So now that baking soda is reserved. Now, typically, item reserves are cleared either when an item is actually shipped or when a work order is finalized, whenever you consume the item. And the inventory is going to go down by the amount that you shipped or consumed. So occasionally, you might have some reason for reversing an order or forcibly removing a reserve, and we're going to touch on those functions now. So if we head to the warehouse, the first and best option if you need to go ahead and get the item is go to the order where the item is reserved. Here's our customer order that we built a little earlier. And you can send it back to open orders. That's going to remove the reserve and leave the item in stock. So that's one way that you can remove that reserve. Now, one way that we can check if a product is reserved and where that product is reserved is by actually going into the product's settings. So if we go to View Product and we come into Edit that product by clicking the E button, we can actually take a look at back orders on the product, and we can take a look at the settings on this product. So if we wanted to see back orders for this product, we'd be able to see whether or not it's been back ordered. Okay. Now, let's move ahead, and we're going to look at other ways that we can remove that reserve, other than canceling a work order or reversing a picking ticket. Now, more often than not, you'll actually find the real reason you need to change that reserve is actually because your stock level is inaccurate. So our first recommendation is to adjust your stock level in Manage Inventory. Now, in the event that your stock level is correct, there's just a reserve that's there for some reason. You may also want to take a look at your orders. But if you can't seem to find the order where your product is missing, maybe change your date filter, because you might not just be able to see the order in your date filters up here in the upper right. If you're still having issues with your reserves, we do have another tool. We can come into Admin, we can come into Site Settings, and we can come into Sitewide Settings. And you will need administrator access, but you'll see there's Recalculate All Reserves in the lower left for that Sitewide Settings. So what this is going to enable you to do is it's going to allow you to look at all of the orders that are currently in the system and just double check that the reserves are correct. So that's one more way that we can address reserves and start to recalculate the reserves. This is, if you need to reset reserves, this is the safe way to do it. Okay, if there's some item that's reserved and you're not sure why, you can click this button and that will just double check that all of the reserves are there for a good reason. Okay, now that will go ahead and clear out your reserves. This is also if you find yourself with negative reserve numbers, you'll always want to come and click that button. Okay, so that's in Admin, under Site Settings, under the Site-Wide Settings tab. Now the last resort is if we go to View Product, and we go into that product to edit it, and we go to Additional Info. There is a Clear All Reserved Quantities. So this is a last resort to immediately clear all reserved quantities regardless of whether or not the item is on the order. This can result in negative reserves on an ongoing basis. So we don't encourage this, but this is an emergency option if there's no other way to clear a reserve. Okay, so that covers the various ways you can remove reserves, and this concludes our tour of today of reserve features and how they function. If you have any questions, do feel free to put them in the Questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel, and thank you for watching. So we'll just hold just a moment for questions. And seeing no further questions, thank you all for watching. Have a great day.